During one night, a tremendous power was felt throughout the world. Everyone in the magic world was witnessing the birth of a miracle, the child of the prophecy, the one blessed by the ruhk, the boy who would one day change the world and rule over the 7 seas, Sinbad. 5 years have passed and we find the little Sinbad helping his father fish in their boat. Soon, they encounter a storm and Sinbad's father can't seem to find the way to get out alive. But Sinbad gets on his shoulder and points to the direction to escape the storm. Sinbad's dad finally realizes how special his son is, one capable of changing the world. A few days later, Sinbad finds a collapsed man outside their house. His father takes the stranger into his home and nurses him. The man repays them with telling Sinbad stories about his journeys and the outside world that fascinate the little Sinbad. Some days later, the same man takes Sinbad hostage and he reveals to be a spy from their enemy country, the Rime Empire. Sinbad's father appears and he begs the man to leave Sinbad alone. But the man refuses and calls him a traitor for leaving the military and tries to hurt Sinbad. Sinbad's father, unwilling to see his son get hurt, charges at the man and stabs him in the chest. Sinbad gets sad as the man betrayed his trust and his stories meant nothing but lies. His father ends up being taken by the authorities, forcing him back into the war. He got beaten and then gets shamed in public by everyone. Sinbad, with tears in his eyes, yells at everyone for hating his father for simply wanting to be with his family. One stranger tries to shut Sinbad up, but his father rips his clothes apart and shows everyone his scars. Sinbad cannot believe what his father has been through in the previous war. He misses one leg and has several huge scars all over his body. Before being taken away, he asks Sinbad to become a great man and take care of his mother. Some weeks later, the military gives Sinbad news from his father, a coffin with his father's sword inside. 9 years have passed since then, and Sinbad became the hero of town by helping people when they need it. He meets Yunan, a proclaimed traveler, after saving some people from bandits. He takes him home to get some rest. Yunan witnesses Sinbad helping everyone and even taking care of his sick mother. In the next day, Sinbad leaves for work, and his mother tells Yunan to help Sinbad fulfill his destiny in the world. In that same moment, Sinbad gets confronted by some noble and the authorities. They want Sinbad to serve his country Partivia in war, and they tell him about the strange appearance of large buildings called dungeons. But he refuses as he remembers his father's death while serving their country. Yunan later advises him to conquer the dungeon and take the power of a king. This way, he will be able to achieve his dreams. His mother tells Sinbad he needs to fulfill his destiny, and gives him his father's sword. Yunan takes him to the entrance of the dungeon. Sinbad goes inside it and finally gets his first adventure in a new world. Inside, a monster suddenly charges at him and he kills it immediately. He also notices another monster that was about to attack the noble man and kills it. The man introduces himself to Sinbad, but since his name is too long, Sinbad calls him Draken. They start killing monsters around them. They also see a huge monster flying over them and they make a plan to get across to another door. Draken wants Sinbad to sacrifice himself for the country, but Sinbad refuses. Draken then leaves Sinbad and runs for the door but cannot open it. A monster sees him and approaches him and takes him out with a breath of lightning. Sinbad rides the waves of the water that is shooting out from the rock formations. He fights the monster with his sword and finally stabs it. The monster crystallizes and leaves a key while it vanishes. They open the door and go inside the treasure room. Sinbad touches a lamp and a djinn named Bal appears asking who wants to become king. Sinbad expresses his desire for the power of a king, but Draken refutes it as he also wants to be a king. And so, Bal proposes they duel for the power of a king. Draken pins Sinbad down and tries to kill him, but Sin holds the blade with his hands and punches Draken, who almost passes out. Draken remembers he promised someone he will not die and continues the fist fight. Sinbad keeps punching him until he almost knocks him out, but Draken gets back up and both charge at each other. Sinbad gets the final punch and wins the duel. The djinn recognizes Sinbad as his master and gives him the power to be king. Sinbad wakes up outside the dungeon and gets home to find that his mom is critically ill. He checks on her and listens to her last words. She says he became a great man, just like his father. Sinbad finally makes his decision to get power and change the world. In his journey, Sinbad witnesses a man trying to kill a sea beast. Sinbad interferes and uses his djinn power to kill the monster and save the man. The man introduces himself as Hina, accompanied by his sister, Piparica. Sinbad then asks to be taken to their village and meet the tribe chief. The chief of the Amachuk village tells Hina to investigate a dungeon that has suddenly appeared near them. Sinbad advises against it, revealing to them that it's a dangerous place. They don't believe him, but Sinbad tells them that he's the first dungeon conqueror in the world. At night while he sleeps, he's attacked by an assassin kid, Jafar. who just like Sinbad belongs to the Partivia kingdom, who wants to assassinate Sinbad and take his power. He defends against Jafar with his magic and interrogates Jafar. At some point, Sinbad expresses how Jafar's parents must be disappointed on him, but the latter proudly reveals that he murdered his parents when he was 6. Sinbad still misses his parents and slaps Jafar's face, who sets himself free and uses a smokescreen to escape. Later that night, Piparika reveals and asks Sinbad to save Hina, who went to the dungeon expecting to capture it. Sinbad arrives inside the dungeon to save Hina, who was ganged up on by the enemy who recently tried to assassinate him. They engage once again on Hina and Sinbad tries to save him, but Draken appears and shoots Sinbad's weapon. Jafar tries to tie up Sinbad, but he easily punches him out of the way. Jafar dispatches his kunais at Sinbad, but Hina saves him by blocking the attack. They run into the water and swim away to escape and find a way into the treasure room. Draken and his men finally catch up to them, and the djinn named Veilfer gives them the challenge to gain his power. They all participate and all they have to do is to capture a cat. Sinbad tells them to work as a team and lies about staying out of the challenge, but he captures the cat anyways. They all complain about his lies, but he explains that he's the only one who truly wants and deserves its power. He reveals he wants to start his own kingdom and bring peace to the world, but he knows he cannot do everything alone, and asks them to become his allies and join him on his journey. They reach an understanding, but the assassin group suddenly emits a dark ruhk from their souls. Their ruhk combines and forms a huge demon. Veilfer tells Sinbad, Draken and Hina that they can save the assassins if they pierce the demon's heart. The demon attacks them and kicks them to the side until its hand is cut off. Sinbad tries to use his power, but the monster captures his sword with its severed hand. Hina activates the power of his horn-like weapon and pierces the monster, saving Sinbad's newfound comrades. But Jafar's hatred resurrects the monster once again. Sinbad sticks his hand inside him and goes into his psyche to find 2 Jafars crying. Sinbad tells them that he will take care of them and he hugs them, offering them a home. Jafar finally accepts Sinbad's request to become his ally, and the monster disappears, impressing Veilfer, who never expected someone to save a human who has fallen into depravity. In the end, everyone agrees that Sinbad is the most suitable to become their king and obtain his second djinn. They get out of the dungeon and Sinbad helps Hina to propose to the princess of the Amachak. They marry and head out to sea with Sinbad as their master. While traveling, Jafar gets to adapt to becoming a good boy and getting sea schooled by Hinahoho's wife, who recently got pregnant. After some time at sea, they finally arrive at the Rime Empire. There, they set up a street stall but are stopped by authorities for trading illegally. A mysterious man appears and purchases all of their stock and leaves. By evening, they see that the man has set up a shop with their stock at 10 times their original price. Sinbad decides to continue trading and send his man back to get more stuff. He invites the man to dinner to learn more about trading, and reveals his dreams to start his kingdom and bring peace to the world. The man reveals that Sinbad is immature, but gets interested when Sinbad tells him about his dungeon captures. The man tells him he will get Sinbad a trading license if he manages to raise the impossible amount of 1,000 gold coins in 1 month. Sinbad decides to start telling the stories about how he captured the dungeons in the streets and shows his power. The crowd goes wild and they start donating their money to him. 1 month later, he sees the man again and asks for more time to get enough money, but the man also donates 1,000 gold coins. Sinbad asks who he is, and the man's retainers reveals that Sinbad has been talking to Rashid, the king of Balbad. Sinbad gets his trading license but continues to take lessons from Rashid. He continues to perform in theaters to get more funds for his trading company. Sinbad's friends returns from their trip some months later. He shows them their luxurious store named the Sindria Trading Company. Sinbad, Hinahoho and Jafar take a journey to the kingdom of Sasan. They need to get more allies and for a trading agreement. They get there and find that the people are hostile toward outsiders because it's a highly religious country. They find out that to get any alliance with the kingdom, they have to talk with the Night King, who's also the chief of the religion. They go to a restaurant to eat and are approached by the kingdom's prince, Mistras, asking them to tell him stories of their journey. Mistras explains to them that he also wants to journey with them. He feels stuck in such a small country in a vast world. He doesn't want to become a knight, but his father refuses to let him go leave the country. He also explains that to leave the knights, he has to die or fight the king. Sinbad accepts him and tells him about his work and dream. Mistras then goes to talk to his father and their fight is set. Sinbad goes to watch the fight Mistras is having against his father. He proves to be strong, but his father is much stronger and has a djinn to shield and repel attacks. The king easily defeats Mistras and goes to kill him, but Sinbad steps in and stops him. He He reveals that the king is no messenger of God because he also holds the same power. They wage that if Sinbad wins, he takes Mistras with him and gets a trading alliance with the nation. If not, they can simply kill him. The fight begins, and Sinbad's attacks are easily deflected back to him while the king doesn't get impacted. The king gets cocky because Sinbad cannot deal any damage to him. But Sinbad finally reveals that he can overpower the king at any moment. He unleashes his full-body djinn equip, taking the form of Baal. He strikes the castle with lighting from the outside, creating a huge hole in the roof, and blinds everyone in the process. He takes the king outside and flies with him to a secluded area of mountains. The king still doesn't believe in the power difference, but Sinbad shows him that he can destroy any country in the world. He points his sword at the mountains and uses his ruhk to destroy 7 mountains at the same time. He reveals to the king that he needs allies. Furthermore, he explains some other countries will use the djinn's power to wage wars and conquer weaker countries. But he wants a peaceful world and desires allies to help him achieve that dream. The king realizes the truth and accepts Sinbad's alliance as he supports his ideal. He lets the prince leave with Sinbad and represent their nation in their journey. They head to their next adventure to Mira, a country ruled by women. He lets the prince leave and represent their country in Sinbad's journey. They arrive at the kingdom and see huge birds, which are used as transportation for the people since their nation is built in between the mountains. They decide to visit the Queen Mira, but she tells them that she doesn't want to talk to men. They beg and assure her that they mean well, but Sinbad's playboy syndrome kicks in and tries to seduce and flirt with the queen. As a result, she strips and pushes them into a valley called the Valley of Death. Hina was taken elsewhere for body inspection, but the rest have to survive the valley with no clothes or food. They try to search the area to find anything to survive with, but nothing. They get the hang of it, building a shelter to hide from the rain and surviving by eating snakes. Mistras ventures out alone to find a way to get out of the valley and find some meat. He takes it back to his comrades who take it and roast it with no suspicion at all. They try to understand how the meat got down there as it was fresh and processed by human hands. Mistras takes Sinbad to the place he found the meat. They see the giant birds coming down to take the meat back to the higher ground. Sinbad asks Mistras and Jafar to collect all the meat so the birds don't get them. The next day they find more meat that is bigger and fresher. The birds come to collect the meat and the trio appears from inside the meat pieces. Sinbad visits Mira's bedroom to show her that he escaped and takes his djinn vessels. The queen and him start to battle in their djinn equips. They start with lightning attacks, but the queen's djinn Cerberus can use 3 elements: fire, lightning, and ice. Sinbad then transforms into Veilfor djinn equipped to counter Mira's attacks with his skill, Shiny Hands. The queen gets into close combat and he dodges everything, uses his ice skill, and then more Shiny Hands. The queen starts to mock Sinbad as he needs several djinns to fight her, but she just needs 1 djinn, making her the most powerful person on earth. She hits him directly with a fire attack, throwing him below to hit a mountain. When he's down, she charges with another fire attack, but he gets back up. She thinks she's got him, but he hits her from behind after teleporting behind her. She continues to attack him, but fails as if he's too fast for her. But in reality, his shiny hands stagnate the water particles in the air, making her slower. To finish the fight, he temporarily crystallizes her in ice. After their fight, Sinbad goes to see Mira and she agrees to form an alliance with him. She releases Hina, who is still traumatized by his fate while having lipstick marks all over his body. They prepare to leave and Mira meets them a representative to bring along their journey. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.